Here we go. This is Dom and Tom. How you doing today, Tom?
I'm good. Let me just check something here. We got a little echo going on.
I think we should keep it like this. La, 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 la.
There we go. No echo.
No, I still.
Oh, you still got an echo. Hang on a second. Stand by. That is super weird because I have, let me check here. Yeah, are you still hearing the echo on your end?
Yeah, it's like a Halloween episode.
Do you have your speakers on your laptop?
Maybe I do. Hold on.
Here we go, guys. This is something we haven't done for a while, guys.
All right, and on that note, we'll start. Clip off the first 10 minutes. Hey, this is not the smartest guys in the room. How you doing today, Tom?
I'm doing well. I was like, all the settings are right on my end. I was like, I don't know what's happening. I was like, we can't figure this out, I don't know how to fix it.
One orange button because I muted here, I muted there, and I only muted one place.
Yeah, it's one of those things. It's like, and this is how it is, right? I mean, this is, what we're doing here is not how things are designed to be used, right? So like, we're not using Clubhouse in the way it's designed to be used. We're not using, we're trying to like combine all of these different platforms so that we can have this not the smartest guys in the room space where people can come and talk and we can share thoughts and ideas and value for each other and broadcast that around the internet. And whenever you try to do something hasn't been done before in a novel way, that's not, that's incorporating things that aren't designed to work together, you run into little hiccups like that. So like for anybody listening, so that there's a very particular way all of the sort of audio has to work so that we don't end up with a crazy feedback loop or some weird echoes. And today was one of those days where we just didn't have it 100% exactly right when we got on. But that's the way it goes. Like I said, whenever you're trying to do something novel, there's always some roadblocks. But we got there. We're good. It sounds good. And so I'm happy.
I too am happy, Tom. We're going to talk about collaborations today, winning collaboration. So the fact that you knowing something that I don't know is valuable to me, right? We can't, if two people show up in any collaboration with the same exact skill set, I guess, unless you're like runners in a relay, but then I guess somebody's better at the beginning and somebody's better at the end. But I think you probably need a different set of skills to have a successful collaboration.
Yeah, absolutely. So we were talking. Let's just. I want to ask a question. Oh, there's a loud truck outside. What do you know? I want to ask a question. What we were talking about this right before we started the live stream. How are things going with the old basement remodel?
I'm going to town. I'm John, Tom, and I'm manly as can be. My wife comes down the other day and we're hammering away, and my wife goes, and Jim is my father-in-law. She said, her stepdad, she said, did Jim teach you how to hammer? And I'm like, she's like, oh, where'd you learn to hammer like that? And I said, Jim showed me. And meanwhile, like, I knew how to hammer the last 35 years, but my wife thinks I just learned how to hammer yesterday. Like, ye of little faith. So the basement's going good. I'm swinging like a fool down here. We're measuring stuff, cutting stuff, and I will have at some point we will be watching Steeler games. So it is a successful collaboration because sometimes I'll tell my father-in-law, I don't know about that, or could we do this? And we just turn a wall or check something out, and it all seems to be working out. Now, I mentioned that, and I'm going to not show my age here, but the getting up and sitting down and getting up and sitting down is not the funnest. And yeah, next week, John Jay, I'm having hernia surgery with a robot. 5 of them, man. I'm going to be like a new person. I'm going to be swimming like the wind. Swimming like the wind. I'm going to be swimming like a fish, running like the wind, and jumping like a kangaroo. I'm going to be on fire. So that's what I got going on, Tom.
And wearing a cat suit to boot once you're fully healed.
Yeah, once my guts aren't hanging out, John, I'm getting myself a cat suit.
Out of curiosity, Don, when you said 5 of them, are we talking 5 robots or 5 hernias?
We are talking, it is 5 hernias at this point. So I'm a 3-time loser in the past. I had one explode one time, which was really painful. I thought I could make it to Monday morning. So I knew I had it. I was lifting weights, and I used to put a plate on my stomach so that it didn't like push out when I was lifting weights. All of a sudden I felt something weird. I got up from the bench and my stomach just went boop, and I had a big sack of broken hernia right there. But yeah, Dr. Tachi, welcome back. Yeah, we're talking hernias. So
wow,
collaboration. Go on, Tom.
Well, no. I was just asking because you said you're having surgery with robots, 5 of them. So I was just clarifying: are there 5 robots working on you, or is it for the 5 hernias? But I guess just one robot, just going one at a time on the hernias, huh?
Like AI. I don't know, like AI. Hey, I see Chris is here. Chris, I just made last week. Chris said I was staring into the camera. Yeah. I don't even know. Am I supposed to look in the camera? I thought I was supposed to look at like a dot up here. Sorry, Chris. I don't know. So he said I look like an owl. So I just made a clip out of Chris saying that I look like an owl. So there you go.
I mean, I always look at the camera.
Well, Chris says I look like an idiot when I look at the camera.
I wouldn't worry too much about what
I want to know.
He likes to give people a hard time, so I wouldn't take it to heart too much. If he's saying you look like an owl, he's just giving you a little grief.
I'm telling you, from that point on, I've not known where to look. I'm like, or see people with like real bad eye contact. That's what I'm like now because I don't know whether to look straight. Dr. Tachi, before we get to John, before we get to Brian, should we be looking right at the camera? Should we look at a dot when you set up your lives and things like that? Which do you have a cheat where you look at, like, I'm guessing Tom's looking at like a green dot somewhere or something. So what do you do, Dr. Tachi?
Absolutely look in the camera because you're talking to the audience. So for them to feel like you're talking to them, you should look into the lens, because otherwise, if you look at the computer or you look somewhere off to the side, people are like, what are you looking at? So for me, I actually have my camera is separate from my computer, obviously. So I have to look up. So I've trained myself to look at the camera and not at the computer screen, except for, I'll look down periodically if I have a guest and they're trying to show something. So I'll look down or I'm looking at notes. But for the most part, I'm looking into the lens of my camera.
Thanks, Dr. Tachi. Okay, so sometimes we go off track. So Tom, go on, teach us.
Well, I was just gonna say, can I just say something here? Like, first of all, I appreciate you asking Dr. Tachi, because obviously she is a.
I wanted a neutral party. I wanted a party that wasn't going to bust my chops. That's why.
Yeah.
Go on.
I like how you're like, oh, Tom's probably looking at a green dot. You know exactly what I'm looking at. We've had this conversation like a dozen times. over the years, you know that I'm looking at you, right? You know that I have my camera set up because I've talked about it here before. I'm not the smartest guys in the room. I have my camera set up using a teleprompter with a monitor where I have your image, the image of our what people are watching on the live stream right now is on the screen. That's exactly what I'm looking at, right? So I'm looking at you. I'm looking at the image that everybody is seeing on the live stream right now. That's what I see on my end, right? So like it's easy. It's an easy trick for me to be able to maintain really good eye contact, to watch you, to talk to you, for it to feel like when I'm talking to the folks, you know, whether I'm talking to John or Brian or whoever, or Dr. Tachi, whoever's here, for it to feel like I'm talking directly to you, because I'm looking right at your name on my screen. I'm looking right at your face when we're talking to each other, Dom. That's how I was able to catch you on your glue gun last week, was because I could literally read it. I was looking right at it as you were showing it to us. So you know what I'm looking at. I'm not looking at a green dot. I'm looking at what at the live stream. I'm looking at whatever I choose to put on my screen. So if I'm in a Zoom call, I'm looking at the person I'm talking to, right? If I'm doing a virtual presentation, I'm looking at the people that I'm talking to. And I do that on purpose, right? That's how I'm able to maintain really good eye contact and have good video presence virtually, is by using this, this teleprompter hack. It's a small teleprompter. It's a couple $100, right? It's set up with my camera that I use for live streaming. So it's not a crazy expensive solution. If you've got a couple of dollars to throw at giving yourself a better presence on screen, on video, especially virtually, then it's what I would recommend everybody do. If you can, get yourself a teleprompter. They even make smaller versions where it's just a phone screen. You can actually, I know that with Apple, you can mirror your computer screen onto your phone. You can use your phone as an additional monitor. So, there's opportunity to use that to actually create the same kind of setup I have now with a laptop. So there's ways around it. There's ways to do it, but I think that's the best way to do it. If that answers your question. I'm not looking at the green dot. I'm looking at your face.
Okay. Well, the only reason I asked about the green dot, like, let's say for somebody who is less versed in it, like me, is there, so Chris says, like, my camera is detached from the computer, but I am looking at a computer because the keyboard's down here. Time to time, I need to look. I got a screen over here. So sometimes you'll see me looking away. But like, let's say you're on it. Let's say Brian Swift does a Zoom later today with somebody. Now, sometimes if you're using a computer or something like that, you might appear to be looking down like this. What can somebody do besides like a teleprompter? Should it be lifting the whole base up, or this is just a first rule, lift your thing up 8 inches or something,
All right. So there's two things. First is, yes, absolutely. Your camera should be at or above eye height, right? So wherever you're sitting, you should not be looking down at your camera, right? You should not be looking down. If you're using a laptop, who doesn't have a couple of cardboard boxes laying around, right? Everywhere you go, you're going to find, whether you're in a co-working space, right? You're using someone else's office. You're going to find a way. You're going to find a place where you can grab some cardboard boxes. You're in a coffee shop. I guarantee you go up to the counter, you ask if they got a cardboard box sitting in the back that you can borrow to set your laptop on. They got one for you, right? So make sure you raise your laptop up so the camera is at eye level or above, right? Slightly above, not like 6 inches above or 8 inches above, but like just an inch or two maybe above your eye line, right? So that you're either looking straight ahead or slightly up at the camera. That's number one. That you're always going to look better that way. If you look at me, like, I don't have the most defined jawline in the world, right? But because of the angle out, that I have my camera set at, and the way I have the lighting set up, I naturally have a little bit of a shadow under my jawline, and it creates this really clear kind of sharp jawline for me that I otherwise don't naturally have, right? I'm not like, I'm not, I'm not Brad Pitt. I don't have like a chiseled jawline over here. I mean, I'm not Brad Pitt in so many ways I couldn't even begin to count. But in that particular way, I don't have a chiseled jawline. But the way I have things set up, helps to really define my face, right? Give my face definition away from my neck so it doesn't all kind of blend in. But if I had the camera below me, right, and I was kind of looking down at it, I had my chin pulled in and everything like that, then I'm going to end up looking like I have no chin, no jawline. I'm going to look a little bit mushed or whatever, right? I mean, like looking up is never a flattering angle for virtually anyone. So that's number one, is raise it up. And then number two is practice, right? Practice looking at the camera when you are speaking. It's okay. Obviously, when you're listening, it's okay to look at someone's face when they're talking, right? Like right now, Dom, you're looking off as I'm talking, and that's totally fine. You might be looking at my face where I appear on screen, so you're not just kind of staring into the camera. That's totally fine. But when you're talking, right, you should try to make really good eye contact with the camera. And really that comes with practice. The other way to do it is ultimately, as you practice, is to kind of allow your eyes to defocus a little bit while you're talking, which actually increases your field of vision a little bit. So you're not hyper focused on just the lens of the camera, but you kind of take in everything in your field of vision a little bit more. It's all a little bit fuzzier. It's hard to describe. I'm like not sure I'm doing it justice, but if you allow your eyes to defocus a little bit, you can kind of take in a wider field of view, but none of it is really sharp. And so that way you can kind of see people's expressions. If you have faces on your computer monitor, right, you can kind of see their expressions, you can see their reactions to things, all while kind of maintaining eye contact with that camera. But yeah, ultimately it just comes down to practice. But those are my two tips, are like, one, get that camera up. I don't know how many times, like literally I have a weekly networking call, and there are people who are always, no matter how many times I talk about this, I've talked about it in there, I've done whole presentations on it, there are people who still have their camera set up so I'm staring up, and like the most prominent thing I see is their double chin, right? Because of how they have the camera positioned, because it's looking up at them and it's totally unflattering, right? So get that camera up, and then secondarily practice speaking to the camera, right? The camera is your audience. The camera is the person that you're talking to, right? Not the representation you see on the screen. So the more you practice that, the more you drill in on that, the better at it you'll be, right? And then, like I said, if you want to really kind of take it to that next level, it's not incredibly expensive. It's a few $100s. And if you're doing a lot of professional video conferencing, I think it's money well spent to spend a few $100s, invest in some better equipment, and actually create a scenario where you can do like I do and just talk to the people that you're talking to. Like I'm looking right at Dom right now while I'm talking about this. No problem. It's like I'm not trying to fake anything. I'm not trying to pretend like I'm looking one place and looking somewhere else. That's way harder. Instead, I just made it easy for myself. I can just look right at him when I'm talking to him. So those are my tips, I think.
All right, good tips, Tom. We appreciate you. We try to learn every weekend here, right? So Jason says, I'm looking down now. Jason says, my next investment is a teleprompter, or he said you could also just dye your beard black, half your beard black, and then give yourself like a real chiseled look. So that might work out as well. All right, we're talking collaborations today, winning collaborations. So why, like, just Tom doing a segment on video, great collaboration. I sit here and got to drink my water and listen and learn. So I am thankful for that. So who do you pick? Why do you pick them? How does it work? And do's, don'ts. And you might say, I've never used anybody because I don't trust anybody. Okay. Now, does that limit you? Maybe. But, it's never going to go wrong because I'm 100% responsible for everything. Okay, let's talk all things collaboration. So I'm going to jump. John Jay, all things collaboration, winning moves. How do you find out somebody that is John Jay approved, or you start working with them and you're like, I am out of here?
Well, I'm like you. I don't do any collaboration as far as hiring virtual assistants and doing all this stuff. And part of the reason is I have the time to get it done. However, the main reason why is no one has approached me with what's in it for me, what they offer. It's all vague. Hey, let's have a conference call and talk about what we have to offer. They never once said, by the way, we can help you grow your business this way. This is what we do. This is what you specialize in. And then give me some examples. Let me make a decision. As far as collaboration goes, I'm open to it as long as people have the mindset that it's a two-way street. We talked about this yesterday. If there's something they'll do to benefit me, for example, one of the big things I'm pushing on with the radio show and podcast and social media is I'm tired of going after advertisers and sponsors. I'll still do it, but I'd rather have my own stuff. I'd rather partner with someone who's got a digital presence, who has a product to sell, who has a lot of things, and then they need reach. They need to get in front of people. That's mutually beneficial for both of us. I'm open to that all day long. But the big problem I have is people that say, give me money and we'll talk. And that's not how it works for me. Thank you.
Good stuff. Good stuff, John. Tom, you want to give some feedback on that? Your thoughts? What are you thinking?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's very fair, right? I mean, collaboration definitionally is a two-way street, right? It has to be mutually beneficial to work. And I think John's absolutely right. Like whenever you're entering into a relationship or a collaboration, right? The question should always be, how is this helping both of us, right? How is this benefiting both of us? How is this a mutually beneficial relationship? It can never be one-sided. It can never be, oh, it's a collaboration, but first you have to prove this or I have to prove that. No, that's not how collaborations work. From jump, it should be clear that you are entering into a mutually beneficial relationship. And I think you should clearly define how that benefit exchange, how that value exchange works before you enter into that relationship, just like John was talking about, right? I have reach, you need reach, you have a product and a marketing budget that can help sponsor my show and in exchange we'll give you that access to that reach. Like, there you go, right? Like that's mutually beneficial. You pay me for sponsorship, in exchange I give you access to my audience, which helps you, right? That's mutually beneficial. That makes perfect sense. But the give me money and then we'll talk about it later, like that's not, that's a transaction. That's not a collaboration, right? And they're different things. So I think a lot of times people get confused between transaction and collaboration, and it's like, just because they both end in ION doesn't mean they're the same thing, or even related, because they're not, right? Transactions are one way and collaborations are two way, and it's really important that you remember that difference, and outline in detail and define those relationships from jump, I think.
Good stuff. Okay, let's keep it going. Not the smartest guys in the room. Winning collaborations. I wrote a couple words down when I was thinking about this, and you guys can add more words but a couple things. Energy for me is important. I got to bring energy, show up with energy. I heard Tom Hanks talk one time, and he was saying that on the first set he was ever on, they were showing up a little bit late and a little bit hungover. And he said, the guy pulled them all aside and said, show up with ideas and show up with energy. And from that point on, Tom Hanks always had his own ideas when he showed up and always came with energy. So energy, consistency, talent, temperament, and persistence. Temperament, because I don't want to work with assholes. I don't want to work with people that freak out over, what do they call that? Like the sky is falling, right? The sky is not falling. So some people, they're so worked up over every little thing that I personally can't deal with that. It's not for me, but somebody else may. All right, let's go. Brian Swift, winning collaborations. What do you look for? What do you avoid? What do you got for us?
Well, I agree with what everybody said. I think there's got to be a chemistry between the collaborators. I have to believe there's got to be a win-win-win, a win for each collaborator and a win for the end result of which you're collaborating. And then all the things you said, there's got to be an energy. There's got to be that certain attitude that resonates with you, somewhat of a same moral compass. There's just got to be that connection. And I'm all for collaborating. I think that it's just the way I would rather work in a collaboration because I like working with people, but it's definitely got to be the right person. I'm complete.
Right on, Brian. Thank you very much. And me and Brian I've worked for Brian, and we've also collaborated on a ton of other projects too, where we're like, hey, this will work. He does his thing, I do my thing, and we've been pretty successful, and we keep moving forward, right? Like Brian connects with who he connects with, talks to 1,000 people, opens new doors. Go on, Brian.
No, absolutely. I look at it like anything else. Outside of our collaborating opportunities, you and numerous other people are on the back of my mind, because if I run across somebody that could benefit you or you could benefit them, I feel the collaboration becomes a friendship, and if friendships in a friendship is Tom has described the philosophy of, what's it called? Like the obligation of wanting to help and feeling obligated to help, so that if I run across somebody, I want to send them on as somebody that I've worked with, collaborated with, or know to help both people. So reciprocation, that's it. So I think that's important to have that feeling that that's what you want to do. And I think that comes with building a good friendship. And usually I think a good friendship can lead to a good collaboration. So I'm complete.
Well said, Mr. Swift. Love you. All right, not the smartest guys in the room. We appreciate everybody for being here. You could be 1,000 other places today, maybe 1,000,000, but you chose to check out the live stream or be here with us on Clubhouse. So thank you. Without you, it would be me and Tom arguing about him looking at a green dot or me looking at a green dot or some other thing that we find to argue about.
Or the difference between a caulk gun and a glue gun.
Yeah, that is true. I will say, and I'm gonna clean this up. So we were talking about the caulking gun a few weeks ago. I mentioned that it was a glue gun. I'm gonna slide right through this. When I use my app for clips, boy, they messed up the what do you call it? The words? What do you call the captions? They messed up the captions every time. I sent an email and I said, just to let you know, I was talking about, something to build my basement, not anything. I think maybe you should.
Yeah. They went X-rated with it. It was
they chose X-rated.
Yeah. It's like, no, the default should not be that. It was CAULK, right? Caulk.
Right. Maybe if you're going to do that, like to your point, the default should be to the good, not to like. Well, in all cases, we'll do. Yeah.
Maybe you spelt it wrong, Dom.
I just said it, Brian. We were all talking. Everybody that said caulking gun, that's the word. They changed it. All right, we're moving on. Not the smartest guys in the room. Dr. Tachi, collaborations. You got any nightmares or any tips for us? Things that we need to avoid or things that we should do? What do you got, Dr. Tachi?
So this is interesting because this made me think of something. So if you've ever heard that biblical term, equally yoked, that's what I look for. Equal yocation. That's not even a word or a phrase, but I'm making it one. I look for equivocation because in the past, when I have done some collaboration, some have been great, but then some others, in my opinion, I brought way more to the table than the other person did. So I said, that's not a damn collaboration. I'm teaching you, damn it. So if it's becoming a teaching or coaching situation, I will send you an invoice. However, if it is a true collaboration, there should be give and take, as has been said, give and take on both ends. And there should be an equal yocation where both people are bringing something of value to the table, or all entities, even if it's not just two, all entities are bringing something of value to the table. If it's not, then again, it's a teaching situation. I rest.
Dr. Tachi, can you? I'm trying to wrap my head around. I'm not sure I'm hearing the word that you're saying right when you're talking about an equal yocation. Like, spell that for me, because I'm trying to.
So yoked is YOKED, like yoked, like a yoke that you would put over an ox. That's where it comes from. And so they talk about biblically being equally yoked with a partner, right? So I just am taking it and applying it to, in a partnership, which is, this is a type of partnership or collaboration, you should have equal yocation. So I guess I'm spelling it YOKAYOKTION. There we go.
I gotcha. Okay, that makes because I'm like, for some reason my brain went to like egg yolk, and I was like, I don't know. I'm not like, this isn't making sense to me the way I want it to make sense. And like, I understood obviously what you were talking about, but I just couldn't reconcile the idea that my brain went like YOLK, not YOKE. Right. But yeah, no, it makes perfect sense, right? I mean, obviously the metaphor is you should both be pulling, if you're equally yoked, then you're both essentially pulling the same weight, right? You're both adding the same amount of effort to the job. And I think that makes perfect sense. That is exactly what you should be looking for. You should be looking for, a teammate. And like, when you talk about yoke, as in like the yoke you would put on, for example, an ox, right? In sort of, biblical times, right? Using an ox to plow fields and things like that, or a workhorse. When you're looking for a good team in working animals like that, you're looking for animals that have roughly similar abilities in terms of how much force they can apply, how much they can pull, and how long they can go for, because those sort of equitably matched animals make the best teammates, right? They get the most work done. If one is pulling more than the other, if they're not matched well, if one is stronger than the other, if one is walking ahead of the other, if one is not working with the other, they don't get as much done as two who maybe are slightly less strong but working better together, right? So I think being well matched and well paired in that collaboration is really important. And so yeah, to your point, Dr. Tachi, being equally yoked or equal yocation is pretty important. I think that's a really good point, and one worth remembering. And also, as Chris said in the chat there, that Dr. Tachi seconded, make sure you're pulling in the same direction, right? Because if you're pulling in opposite directions, all you got is a tug of war going, and no one's getting anywhere, right? So make sure you're pulling together in the same direction towards a shared goal. I think that's also incredibly important. What do you think, Dom?
I agree 100%. I always look, how does everybody win? Who else wins? How do we all win? Even like my authors, when they're about to publish a book, one of the things we talk about is who else wins? Who else can win from selling your book? Who else can win from hosting an event? Who else can win from speaking somewhere with you? And if you all of a sudden now you're collaborating, and a lot of different people can win. So that's one of the things I look for. Okay, Beth, not the smartest guys in the room. We're talking collaborations, winning moves, or collaboration nightmares. You have any tips for us?
What a great topic. Yeah, because my industry, you're going to be at the back of the wolf pack. If and wolves, if you want to pull that up and read about wolves, I'm sure you guys have already read how they travel. But I have to have people, right? I need to collaborate with folks. If I don't, then everything, I'm the only wolf in the pack. So and I'm not the smartest one in the pack. I am not good at like technology stuff, but I know that my transaction coordinators really are. They're good at paperwork. I'm not. I'm good at talking to people. So I think when you're working together, just like Doctor said, you really have to have everybody pulling the same direction to get something done. And if you can try to make it through life on your own, I think you will be very discerned with what you have received. And I yield my mic.
Yeah, thank you, Beth. I agree with you. I think you can only get so far by yourself, right? How much time in the day do you have? How many arms and legs and eyes and ears do you have? But if you, how many hours do you have? But if you can collaborate with people, go in the same direction, I do believe we can get a lot farther. Jason, you had to tap out for a minute, but if you're back, do you collaborate with anybody? You got any nightmares?
Absolutely, all the time, every single day. But my take is a lot different from many and similar in some respects. And in the basic way, I don't look at like how equal you really are. I look at your strengths and I look at the objective. And then I look at your weaknesses, right? So the best way I can explain it, I remember when I was in high school and I was training for the state cross country meet, right? And I'm a junior and there's guys that are seniors that are trying to make the same thing I am, but I never led the pack. I never was the first guy to be out in front. That guy was always strong, but his greatest weakness was being over ambitious, right? Then there's the guy behind me who is keeping the pace with me. And how I won my division in the state cross country meet back when I was in high school was I used the weaker guy who helped pace me, as well as understanding the guy ahead of me who has a strength to want to be ambitious, to be able to stay right in the middle, and then sometimes push. It really depends. So whenever you're collaborating, whether business or love or friendship, what's the objective you want to get to? And the perfect way I can relate it to Dominick, here's a perfect example. Dominick recommended several guys that could be on my man-to-man show, but only I think about two that I really feel like, look, this is going towards the direction of my design. And the other ones, yeah, they were optional. They were great guys, no disrespect to them, but they weren't necessarily a fit. Why? Because when I looked at their stuff, I looked at how they led their own media and how they led their own episodes. And it would collide. It would be a battle of the voices. And that's counterproductive. So I look at how can I use the guy who's ambitious and want to be really strong in the head of the pack to the guy who's going to be right behind me and help me pace my race and get a deliverable. And that applies in business and love. So like when you look for your wife or your husband, they have an internal strength and a weakness that you can cultivate and grow with, and people never talk about the person's weakness as an asset, because you know what? They offset you. And that's where you look at collaborations. It's not that, you're going to win and they're going to win. It's like, what's the objective? And if you design the objective and you understand the strength and the weakness and use it for the grand purpose to get where you want to go, get the result that you want, then those are the people you want on your team. But if you tell me like, oh, I can't use a virtual assistant because I don't want to invest the time. Well, guess what? Sorry, but no offense, but you've got blinders on. If you like working all by yourself, keep doing it. You have a lack of engagement, keep doing it. You're wondering why you are not getting the visual optics done, keep doing the way that you are. if you're not asking questions and seeing people who put something really good together as kind of like a model and then tweak your own design to get similar results, you're in your own way. You got to decide either your ego or progress. And sometimes we have to be broken down and realize that collaborations are really always an asset every single time. They're not a deficit. So that's where I stand.
Good stuff, man. Coming out with the fire today, Jason. Appreciate you. And I think in this room we're pro collaborations. You've had some good interviews with the authors, and one of the things I'm just going to say in collaborations, I try not to take offense to anything. So, like me and Tom are working on something, and we're working on a little series, and Tom, one scene he hates. Okay, that's fair. And maybe okay, let's change the people. Let's change the thoughts. Let's take it out completely. What is the reason you hate it? He gives me the reason. Okay. And so it helps grow, right? I don't take offense to anything in a collaboration that's helping us get to an ultimate goal. So if me and Brian are working together and he says, well, Dominick, this is going to hold us up, get into these people. Okay, I get it. But I'm going to ask, just like building my basement, when my father-in-law starts helping me, and he's using the T over here, but not the T on this side, I ask him, the square, when we're putting the studs in, why are you using the square on that side and not this side? Okay, to me, it's odd, right? Well, because it's square down the board and we're only 6 feet away, so it's going to be in the same spot, I guess. But I'm asking that question because I want to know, because at the end, we both have this common goal to make a nice looking room. So that's how we do it. All right, Tom, you had something to say. Go on.
Yeah. So I've got, Chris, two things. One, to respond to Dr. Tachi's comment in the chat, I don't know about a food truck, but I like the idea of a pop-up restaurant. I'm more inclined to do a pop-up restaurant or something. And I like equally yolked, and everything has an egg with a runny yolk on it. Everything is served with a runny yolk in some fashion. So yeah, I like that idea, Dr. Tachi. I think that's a good idea for a pop-up restaurant, maybe that has a social impact component to it. So something I will think about there for sure. And then also I wanted to answer, my friend Chris had a question in the chat about collaboration, right? And that's what we're talking about today. So let's I'll get back on topic with that. I'll stop talking about egg yolks for a minute, and get back on topic with answering Chris's question. So Chris asked, how and who can I collaborate with when I'm going in a different direction than the marketed industry? So basically, most of his industry is kind of going in one direction, and he's going in a different direction. And so he's asking, how do I collaborate? Who can I collaborate with when everybody's going in a different direction than I'm going in? And I think my response to that is twofold. One, I think probably not everybody is going in a different direction. There are other people who are swimming in the same direction as you're swimming, Chris, regardless of whether or not it's against the current, right? So there likely are other people that you have commonalities with, and who you can collaborate with, where you can build relationships that will help each other. So that's one. But the other thing too is, I would say, my first reaction to that is look outside your industry, right? Don't limit yourself to Chris works in the dog behavior industry, right? In the what most people would think of as dog training, right? For an easy term to put on it, although there's a lot more involved than that. But I would say start looking outside of that industry, right? Start looking around at different industries that touch on animal behavior, human behavior, right? Because a lot of your work, Chris, you have a slogan, right? It's not the dog, it's you, right? Chris's slogan of his business is, it's not the dog, it's you, right? That little picture is a dog with a sort of anthropomorphized human hand pointing at you, saying, it's not the dog, it's you, right? So he's got this thing. So I would say partner with people who specialize in human behavior, right? To help reinforce that point that the way that we behave as humans shapes the world around us, including the way our pets behave, right? So I would say start looking for opportunities to partner with people outside of your industry to lend credibility to what you're doing, right? Go bigger, don't go smaller, right? Don't niche down, broaden out, right? And kind of look outside of the walls or the confines of your industry to find opportunities to collaborate with people who have kind of similar goals and similar interests in mind, but maybe work in different industries towards those things. So that would be my advice, Chris, is look bigger, think bigger. Don't think more narrow and more focused and smaller. Hope that helps. What do you think, Dom?
That was good answers. Hey, Jason wanted to add something on Chris there. Go ahead, Jason.
You know, one little thing and one filter when it comes to collaborations always stands out to be the best red flag and green flag all at once. When someone tells you, I don't, I can't, I won't, I will not, trust them. When they tell you too many things of the negative of what they will not do, they don't do, trust them. But then when they ask you, why didn't you ask me? Because you always are in the can't, I cannot. And I always look for the people, the one greatest thumbs up is like, look, I'm looking forward to us working together. We can definitely do this. Because that team is like getting team minded, team mindset. You know what? I love your idea. I want to work with you. But when people tell you, I don't do this, and they warn you of all the can't do's, and they just come off all crotchety, trust them, leave them alone, let them stay in their lane. But you know what? A lot of people try to prove, oh, I'm worthy of working because you are such at a height. No, work with the person that is like, that's giving you the thumbs up. Hey, I love your idea. And then you take to the next filter. I think that's the biggest thing, because there's too much of the filters of what not to do. And are you tuning in to what to do, what we can do? Because you know what? I have learned from so many attorneys that were always interested in agriculture. And here I am walking right into it. And they're all of a sudden, oh, you're interested. Thanks, man. Appreciate you. But when I asked other super mega attorneys who were into agriculture, they travel all over, oh, I don't have time for you. Fine, so be it. And you know what happened? The guys that turned me down from me to looking for mentors, you know what? The guys that didn't have as big as clout gave me more connections because they were always interested. I love your ideas. I'm interested. Not so trust people when they say, when they're telling you then don'ts and they're giving you all these warnings instead of like, I love the, conception. I love your idea. I love your curiosity. Filter in that for your calculator for collaboration. I think people just overlook that so much.
Thanks, Jason. Appreciate that. And I think that was those are some good thoughts for sure. Chris, for you in particular, what I'm taking away from that is don't be so crotchety. I guarantee Chris is chuckling listening to me say that right now. So don't come at me saying I'm being mean to people. Trust me, Chris can take it. He's got thicker skin than most people. So with that said, with the warning to Chris to stop being so crotchety, let's go to Dom. Dom, you've got some show and tell for us.
Okay, that time of day, that time of the week, show and tell, what everybody waits for. And the people that aren't watching online, you just have to listen to what I'm showing you and see if I gave you enough detail when I'm talking about it. So today, early in the pandemic, everything was screwed up, right? Yeah, I will say this, right? We're at home. It's like so negative. We're at home. Things are different. Maybe like even people I worked with, like they weren't sure if they wanted to do business. I mean, like you're thinking, I still got to pay the bills. I still got to try to figure things out. So I used to collect Pez dispensers. And during the pandemic, I started selling the Pez. I started selling like old G.I. Joes and my Pez dispensers and stuff like that. I was killing on eBay. So today I want to show you my Batman Pez. Most of them were in the dispense, like in the original packaging, like some of the things you see. But what's funny about some of the ones that weren't in the packaging, so my daughter would come down, they weren't in school, and she would like look at the Pez with me. And so like if there was some ones that weren't in the packaging, she'd like look at them and play with them. So she takes a piece of candy out of one of them that was like candy from 1990s, and ate the piece of candy. And I don't think she hated it, but she said it definitely had a weird so inside this Pez from the 90s, there is still candy in it. But anyway, Batman Pez, that's what I got for you today. And you can eat them after 30 years and not get that sick, I guess.
Be honest, Dom. Do you ever like pull the head and make a talk and say, "I am Batman"?
I haven't, but as entrepreneurs, sometimes we are alone. So maybe I will start instead of lone wolfing it out here, talking to my Pez dispensers. When you don't answer, when Swift doesn't answer, Jason, I'll start talking to my Pez. All right, go on, Tom.
You got to do the voice when he talks back, though, right? You got to do the Christian Bale, like "I am Batman." That whole thing.
I like Christian Bale as Batman. I like Robert Pattinson as Batman. Christian Bale more. I think he might be my of course, Jack Nicholson. Dr. Tachi says, I love the Apex dispenser. What's the Apex? Is this? Oh, this Apex. Why is it Apex?
I think she's just saying Pez.
Oh, and I read it as Pez. Okay, I gotcha. I just don't know anything. All right. On that note, we're going to get, what do you think, Tom? You ready for a wrap up? You want to roll right into a wrap up?
Yeah, I genuinely, let's do this real time here. Cause usually, I mean, the way we do this is, genuinely, I don't write out the sort of wrap ups. I don't plan them out beforehand. I sort of like kind of loose script or arrange my thoughts as we're talking during the course of the hour, and then share them afterwards, or towards the end as the wrap up. So it's not a written thing. It's not scripted. It's not pre-planned. So let's just kind of be true to form, and let's get into it a little bit, I guess. So, talking about collaboration, I think that there are a lot of ways that collaborations, can help in business. And there's a lot of different ways they can be structured, right? They can literally be sort of just exchanges of intrinsic value. They can involve exchanges of money in one direction or the other. They can be very structured with clear delineated roles written down on paper, or they can be built off of a handshake. But at the end of the day, I think the biggest thing to keep in mind is that all collaborations come with shared goals, right? All collaborations have to have a shared goal in mind, because without that shared goal, you will not be equally yoked. There will not be, equal yocation, as Dr. Tachi likes to say, and that you will not end up pulling in the same direction, as Chris wanted to point out. So I think it's really important to remember that you have to have shared goals when it comes to collaboration, and that it should always, always, always feel like you guys are working together and each pulling the same amount of weight, right? Each carrying the same amount of weight, or an equitable amount of weight, and not where one person is doing all the work and the other is just kind of coasting, right? It shouldn't feel like that middle school or high school group project where there's always a couple of people doing all the work and a couple of people just sort of riding their coattails, right? Make sure that in a collaboration, especially one that furthers your brand, your business, make sure that in collaboration you are working together, carrying equitable loads, and pushing towards in the same direction towards a shared goal. I think those are all really, really important. But I think also that there's a way that we can think about collaboration as business people, that we can think more about creating relationships built on a collaborative spirit with our customers and with our audiences, right? So rather than looking at customers as a source of revenue or thinking about customers as basically, mini ATMs with cash in their pockets that you can call on to fund your business or fund your enterprise. Start thinking about them more in terms of partnerships, right? Think about them as people that you can work with to create a mutually beneficial relationship where you provide a good or a service to them in exchange for the money that they put into your business. When you think about your customers and your audience that way, you end up building long-lasting and meaningful relationships with them rather than just bouncing from transaction to transaction without any sort of lasting impact or relationship after the fact. And actually, this is kind of front of mind for me because I wrote my newsletter this week, Value First, on this very idea of leading with value, which is obviously something I talk about all the time. And in the newsletter, I tell the story of a customer of Zappos, Zaz Lamar, who was delayed in sending back a return. And when Zappos emailed her to find out what the delay was and whether or not the return was coming, she told them that she'd been delayed because her mother had passed away and she hadn't had the time to process the return. So what Zappos did was, because they pride themselves on their customer service, what Zappos did was they said, "Oh, no problem. Tell you what, we'll schedule UPS to come to your house and pick up the return so you don't have to worry about dropping it off." And they did that. And Zaz thought that was great. And then what they did was they went one step further. And when she returned home the next day, she encountered a floral delivery van just leaving her house. And she found a huge bouquet of flowers at her house. I believe she said carnations and white lilies, and a card from Zappos extending their condolences on the loss of her mother. And she said that was the nicest thing that she's ever had a business do for her. And she literally burst into tears. She wrote about that, talked about that, told everybody that would listen about that, right? And I guarantee you that she drove business. Not only was she a lifelong customer of Zappos after that moment, but I guarantee she drove business to Zappos when she went around advocating for the brand as a result of that interaction. And so the lesson that I take away from that is that our relationships with our customers can also be collaborations and collaborative in nature, right? If you focus on creating relationships that revolve around an exchange of value for your business, you will have as many collaborators as you can handle, in whether that is on the business side, right? Collaborators on the business level, executive level, other brands and other businesses, but also in the relationships you build with your customers. So collaborations and opportunities for collaboration are all around us. We just have to make sure that we look for them, and we'll be able to find them. So that's my wrap up today. That's what I got. I really hope it put a bow on it for you, and kind of brought it all home. I hope you guys got some value from this today. That's why Dom and I do Not the Smartest Guys in the Room, is obviously to provide value to this community that you guys are a part of. We appreciate you. We appreciate all of you. There will be no show next week. Dom is going to be recovering from robot hernia surgery, and I am going to be out on a shoot all day on Wednesday, so we won't be here to do Not the Smartest Guys in the Room next week, but we'll be back the week after that. So until then, I hope you have a great couple of weeks, a great couple of weekends, and really look forward to seeing you guys in a few weeks. We appreciate you. We love you. We thank you. And we will see you soon.